Downward dog on the chair. You know, you walk your feet back and then the hinge. This is great desk yoga too, by the way. In a more active senior class, you could do your warriors with the chair, right? You can triangle with the chair. So there's a lot of obviously so much. It's hard to decide what to get in there, but hopefully you get a taste, and that's what this is all about. Is if it sparks the interest for you to pursue to go deeper, that's the encouragement, and but it also gives you a little bit to know how to meet whoever comes into your class. Okay, I'm going to take a really fast break and then I'll come back. So, again, if you've got props, whether it's towels or blankets or pillows, blocks, a belt or straps, that would be really helpful. And if not, that's okay too. We'll have that discussion about the use of props in whether it's yin or in restorative. But I'll be right back. Hmm. All right. Are you ready? Ready to begin? If anybody has any questions or comments about that, feel free to, we can discuss for a few minutes while we gather back in to our next session on the quieter practices. And you might check to see if you're muted or not. There's some little feedback going on. It's always hard to tell if you've remembered or not. Okay. I mentioned that I can't remember when I started teaching silver sneakers. It wasn't when I was 30, but it was maybe 35. And it was really weird because I never thought that I'd teach old people. Those probably were my words too. However, what I learned in the many years that I did teach senior classes was that the seniors were the hardest workers. Mm-hmm. And maybe because they knew, right? They had a lifetime of experience behind them. They knew you move it or you lose it. They were there. They totally socialized. Don't get me wrong. Lots of this. But when they started working, they worked hard. Now, I'm not saying that other groups didn't work hard and they could, whether it was a resistance training, weight training, they could lift more, but they did what they could, and with all effort, and it was really impressive. And I have very fond experiences teaching the senior client. It's a beautiful thing. And if you get the experience, when it comes up for you, I would. There's no money in it. Of course, not a lot of money in yoga anyway. But if you get the experience, the rewards are great. So I'm just gonna invite you to, whether it's when we do get the opportunity to go back and volunteer in senior assisted living, or whether you teach. I taught at the Y. It's a very sweet experience. Okay. So yin and restorative. That's where we're at, right? The quiet practices. They're totally different. However, they're both more of an introspective practice. And if we think about the yin and the yang, yang is heated and a lot of effort, and the yin is quieter and cooling and more introspective. Look at yin first. And yin, there's a martial arts, I can't even remember the kind of martial arts that he teaches, but his name is Polly Zink. And he introduced yin. And then he taught Sarah Powers, maybe you recognize that name. And Paul Grilly is another. Paul Grilly is really where a lot of the yin and the meridians and he looked at the meridians as far as in the Chinese Eastern medicine, the meridians of the body and the energetics of the body. And mind you, this was like late 70s, way before we had an understanding of fascia. But he definitely understood the energetics, and he was really interested in how that worked. So when we look at a yin practice, and I'm not a certified yin teacher, that's I'm not. I've taken yin workshops. I love yin classes, but I'm not. I just want you to know that that's. So again, this is a taste, and then if it's something that's interesting to you, then you can go and explore and deepen your practice. And but anyway, I just have to put that disclaimer out. But Paul Grilly, he and I've mentioned Paul before. He's the one that has on his website the comparisons of the hip sockets, right? So when we look at anatomy, sometimes we don't understand why we can't do a full coronal plane split, right? And some people have no problem just folding and flopping forward. But depending on where your femur heads of your thigh bones sit and your hip sockets could very well play into that. And also, what the bone and the bone relationship and the cartilage and all of that goes into it. But so Paul Grilly, you might want to check his website out. And he talks a lot about, he recognize this energetic body and the fascia, and yin is not, and he also makes that very clear, yin is not the only style of yoga that looks at fascia and the energetics of body. All asana, in fact, a lot of exercise looks at this as well. But that was a really driving force for him to start to understand the relationship of the time and the release, rather than trying to effort into postures, and to allow what one of my teachers, Jules Mitchell, talks about, the creep and the recovery of allowing this, what we think is a set length in the muscle. And if we just stay for a while and without the efforting, then what happens? And going back to, I used these words in the last session with the senior yoga, proprioception and interoception. So interoception is more of starting to see your body and be in your body and notice how your body feels while you're moving into a posture. And proprioception is in relation, your body in relationship to space. So he started to do this deep study, and with energetic meridians of the body, and then with fascia, which is the connective tissue. And fascia not only, in fact, you know what? Because I have a short period, let's talk and do. So fascia not only encases the muscles, but it's also and everything, but it's also moving through muscles. Right now, just take a seat. Let's see. And pinwheel your legs. So the first shape we're going to look at as far as yin goes is a pose called deer. And if you're mirroring me, it's your right shin will be parallel to the front edge of your mat, and your left shin will be parallel to the side of your mat. And right now, just take a moment. Props are always encouraged. They're not always available in yin practice, like in a restorative practice. props really are where it's at. In a yin class, if they're there and available, then you're invited to use them. And so in that case, if you've got a belt, not a belt, a blanket, you might put a blanket underneath your hips, because there's going to be some differences between your right leg, which if your right leg's like mine right now, my left, then you're an external rotation, right? And your left leg, if it's like my right leg right now, then it's an internal rotation. So right away, there's some asymmetrical differences going on, internal, external rotation. But if you notice that you feel a little short or tight in your hips, a blanket underneath the hips will be really helpful to aid in getting out of your back and to bringing a little sense of balance there. Okay, from here, just start to draw your toes toward your shins and dorsiflexion, and then a little bit of a flare through the third and fourth toe. So and right away, I can feel that outer line begin to work. So there's a little bit of an effort as far as that goes for a moment. And now as you root down, think about pressing into any point that your body makes with the floor, with your mat. And then even relax the toes, relax the ankles. And now just start to walk forward and hinge. If you've got other props available, you can utilize them. I'm going to put my blocks down, and then I'm going to put a bolster on top. If you don't have blocks, that's okay too. It just makes it a little more interesting. But just put your hands down in front of you, whether it's on props or not. Much like we just did with the chair. Just take a moment to get tall. When we are in a yin practice, we don't go to 100% of range of motion or effort. We back it up about 60% of effort, 60% range of motion. And this allows a reset in the nervous system. There's an opportunity for the neurological response, as well as the conditioned responses of the body and muscles. And so as you start to move, just remember, we're looking at about 60%. It's nothing big, it's nothing huge. And the other part of that is because time comes into play here. So as you settle in, maybe your forearms come down, maybe not. And utilize your breath. Utilize the breath in and the breath out. In this quieter practice, the yin practice, it differs from a restorative practice in the idea that in a restorative practice, you let go of all effort, and it's extremely sweet and restorative. In a yin practice, you might come up against some things that don't feel so sweet. And the idea, there's the interoceptive aspect of it, of recognizing and looking at what's coming up for you. Sometimes the need to fidget shows up. The longer we stay in something, even if we're only at 60% of the effort, the longer you stay. I think of the fairy tale, The Princess and the Pea, when I think of this as the analogy of the longer you stay, then there's some discomfort that arises. And the difference between the fidgeting because it's a new sensation compared to getting out of it because of pain. So pain is a teacher that you should always listen to. Discomfort and fidgeting because you're bored, because we're used to always going. It's a much different teacher. And when we can name what's going on, right? It's no, that's my bones and it hurts and I need to change. That's different than I'm feeling some sensation in my hips that I haven't felt for a while, or I need to move because I'm bored. And my if I'm bored, then I'm going to start thinking about some of the laundry list that I've got going on in my head, and I don't want to think about those because that's painful. So then I fidget so that I don't have to think, or I don't move into my body. So when we can name whatever's going on, whether it's pain, I need to get out, I need to do some adjusting, and then I need to come back in, or boredom, or um, whatever, when we can name it, then we have something to work with. When we can't name it, it's a lot harder. That abstract is a lot harder, and it is more uncomfortable. But when we can sit with whatever is resisting, or we're resisting, that's where some change can happen. And that's the idea in the end, is to sit with discomfort, not pain, but sit with the discomfort and allow. So Jules Mitchell studies. She is a biomechanist and kinesiologist and yoga teacher. And this idea of the creep factor is that some of those set lengths of muscles, that we can do a little bit of a shift over time. And when we come back out of this, you might experience something different. And the energies, going back to Paul Grilly and his work with the meridians, and then he went to his teacher, um, oh, what's his name? Moriyama, Dr. Moriyama. The more Taoist approach, Tao Yoga, TAO. Now come back up slowly and just take a small twist towards your right, or whatever leg's in front. So if your right leg's not in front, go to the left, but you're mirroring me, then it's your right. And again, this might be the pause for you. And then the next option would be to walk your hands out. There's going to be another shift. My left hip is lifting. That's okay. You might also not go all the way over to the right hip. You might be more over the right knee or the front knee. You can here, then you can come down a little more, bring your forearms down. But again, think about what's 100%. And if I go all the way at 100%, there's nowhere for my body to ease in. It's going to almost pull back. And so if I do 60%, then my body has an opportunity to feel a little more comfortable, and that ease of surrender, that invitation is available. So the 2 points or principles that differ greatly in a yin practice compared to a yang or a hatha, or more active, heated practice, is holding the poses for several minutes and stretching the connective tissues around the joint. To do that, the overlying muscles need to be relaxed. And if the muscles are tense, then the connective tissue won't receive the proper stress. And that, if they don't have that proper stress induced, then they really have a hard time going and lengthening. And that creep factor, as Jules Mitchell will call it. If we were doing a full practice, we would stay a lot longer. I'm just giving you a sample. So mindfully come back up. and then shift. So now you'll pinwheel the other leg. If it's your left leg or right, depends on which side you just did. Dorsiflexion of your ankles, little flare of your third and fourth toe to really activate that outer uh, chain of connective tissue. You might even find that wedge of the blanket necessary or unnecessary, depending on the sides. So notice the similarities and differences between the sides. And then begin to relax so that you're letting go of the work in the feet. Still think about keeping the spine long. And then begin to work forward. You've got props. You can utilize the props. That brings the earth up to meet you halfway. If you don't have props, then you might come down a little further. Yin isn't just about being on the floor stretchy. The yin could also be a little more active as far as standing postures and um, some work against gravity. That said, to lend to what we're doing today, it'll be a little bit more of on the floor opportunity, just because it's a shorter experience. To go back to what I was saying earlier about the muscles relaxing in order to move into the connective tissue, it's not necessary or even possible for the muscles to all be relaxed when you're doing yin yoga. So in a seated forward bend, for an example, you can gently pull with your arms. So right there wouldn't be relaxing through the arms. You could pull with your arms to increase the stretch on the connective tissue of your spine and the posterior of your body, the back of your body. But in order for those connective tissues in the posterior of your body to be stressed or affected, then you have to relax the muscles around the spine itself. Now work your way back up and take a twist. Might be more, that trajectory might be towards the diagonal, towards the knee, or you might take a little deeper twist. You could stay upright again or begin to utilize your breath as the barometer. And as you keep the breath steady and even, you can move and fold, going a little bit deeper. That back hip, in this case, for me, it's my left, but it would look like your right, you're married. It'll get a little lighter. This deer shape is very similar to what we call pigeon as far as the front leg goes. And because the lever lengths have changed, it's in that back leg, and we don't have the leg fully extended behind us in hip extension, then it's not as great of an ask to fold. And there might be, because of that, and this slowing, that time experience of pausing and being with whatever arises, Some other things might come up that we might not experience, but very similar to the pigeon shape, passive pigeon anyway. And as you continue to let go, think about softening around the muscles of the spine to allow some of the connective tissue to be affected. Forward bend, stretch the ligaments along the back side and help decompress the lower spinal discs. Take your time and gently press back up. You have a blanket, wedge it underneath your bum. And stretch your legs out wide. So we did this in the senior session. But here, I remember the first time I did a yin class, this is really, this went against every grain of my yoga teaching body. But just start to rock into your legs a little bit. And typically, we pull our toes back and the dorsiflexion of the ankle, we activate in the legs. And I remember the first time I took a yin class where we did this wide leg forward fold. And they're like, relax your feet, let your feet flop. It totally went against everything I've been taught, but it's a totally different experience. So just recognize that it's not this idea of the wow, the muscle spindles firing so that we have the reciprocal inhibition. There's the word. It's more of that release along the back chain and the posterior meridians of the body. So get tall and then hinge forward. So maybe it's your hands grounded. If you've got props, you could put them in front of you, a bolster, even a bolster on inclines built on a blocks brings that bolster up to you even more. And if you don't have the bolster, that's okay too. Just walk your hands forward and think about relaxing. So all the muscles in the back body just start to soften. Not only are we getting the posterior of the spine, the ligaments in the back of the spine, the connective tissue, and the spinal discs, but we're also getting into the back of the legs, connective tissue in the knees, hips. Paul Gurley talks about his teacher, Moriyama, talking about in Chinese meridians or Chinese medicine in the meridians of the body, this would be accessing the bladder meridian of the body, forward folds. And he's identified the Ida and the Pingala nadis, right? We talked about nadis on those channels, the energy channels that are so important in our yogic anatomy. This idea of the balancing between the heated masculine energy, the Pingala, and the cooling, softening energy of the Ida. The idea behind a yin practice, I think that, let me see, a quote from Paul really. I discovered to my chagrin that years of sweaty vinyasa and mastery of fairly advanced poses hadn't made me immune to creaky knees, sore back, and aching hips that can accompany long hours of sitting practice. So he recognized that there was a complement, and that because we're already so busy, the yang side of things, the heated side of things, the complement of yin, of that slowing down and the introception that happens when we slow down, could aid in facilitating that the taking the seat of the meditation, which is what he was really struggling with, was the seat of meditation from doing the sweaty vinyasa flows. He still wasn't getting into some of the bands of tissue, and it's where he brought in the study of the meridians and sought his teacher. The other thing that yin and the quieter restorative practices allow us, because we're going so slowly, we come in and we come out of it, it's an opportunity to really check in and see how we're doing, and noticing some differences, sometimes quite marked differences, from the time we come into a posture and then by the time we get out of it, that we see that effect of the creep, and what happens as we move slowly. And let go of some of those tendencies that we're already in, of always pushing and always moving. And slowly come back up. And come on to your back quickly. Not quickly. Not quickly come onto your back. Come onto your back, and we'll look at a couple of things before moving into the restorative practices. But as you come onto your back, just take your legs. Well, first, draw your knees in and just give yourself a little love. And then extend your legs out long on your mat. This shape is called banana. It has very similar, it is the shape of the crescent that we take, the standing crescent, or just supine. So take your feet and just walk them over to the right corner of your mat. And you'll let your hips move towards the left side of your mat, so you're getting a little bit of that curve and flexion into the right side. Now your arms could be just right where they are. You could have your elbows bent. You could keep your feet right where they are, or you could cross your left ankle over the right to increase that lengthening through the left side. And then the next option would be to take your left arm and reach it over to the right corner of your mat, creating that crescent shape or the banana shape, and holding the right wrist, just a gentle floss into the wrist as you open up into the left. Observe the quality of your breath here. As I mentioned, I'm not a yin teacher, but I do pull yin elements into my class. I love the deer. I love teaching that, especially if I'm going to do some sort of pigeon practice. think that's a great compliment. I love this banana stretch because I love crescent Ardha Chandrasana 1, the standing crescent moon. And I think that's a beautiful way to really get into the side body as well as that more introspective checking in. And because this work, we're not trying to balance and hold ourselves up against gravity, this release that happens so that we can really focus on not only the length through the left side, but also what's happening in the shorter right side of the body is you can feel some strength going on. So that's how I've incorporated it. I'm also, I love taking a yin class, and that's if yin something that is speaks to you, then this is also the maybe a gateway for you to start to explore a little bit deeper of a yin style practice, and then release and come back through center. Your arms can come down or elbows bent cactus style, and just a little shimmy shake. And then walk your feet over to the left corner of your mat. Let your hips move towards the right. There's this lengthening going on even before we stretch the right arm over to the left or before we cross the right ankle over the left. So you could cross or you could choose not to. And then you could stretch your right arm over to the left corner. With the left wrist, you could hold the right, or left hand, hold the right wrist, and just move in. This is getting into lateral chains of the body. A lot of tension that we hold. So if you think about what we might have on the side, we've got the intercostals, the breathing accessory muscles. We've got the internal, external obliques in the side of the waist. We've got into the shoulder. We've got the arm extended. And then the lateral hip, place that we tend to hold a lot of tension and tightness. Or as a complement, maybe at the end of a vinyasa sequence with the standing postures in warrior, and think about the work in the lateral hip there. The, the rotators of the hip. This is a really nice space. Then. Mm. And then release your arms, work your legs back to neutral, and just allow the ankles to roll out, your toes turn out to the corners, and then let your toes kind of touch in toward each other, a little pigeon toed. Notice how that affects not just what's going on through the legs, but all the way up into the hips, the pelvis, and maybe even higher. Hmm. And if we were to stay, I'd give you a Shavasana, but I'm going to give you a Shavasana and restorative. So place your feet on the floor and take your time, roll to one side. Gently press up. There are several postures in a yin sequence or a yin practice. We didn't even get close to that, similar to like Gomukhasana, cow face posture. They or seal, which is very similar to a cobra, dragon, which we call lizard, swan, which we call pigeon. There's a lot of different options as far as the archetypes, as they're called, or postures in yin. Shoelace would be the one that's kind of like Gomukhasana. But the idea of the yin practice is a little more about being with the discomfort as you allow some release and opening and lengthening of the body, and that surrendering of letting go. And the restorative practice, which we're going to get into now, is more about utilizing props and breath and time. Time comes into play with both these practices, yin and restorative, and gravity, to completely restore and renew the body. And so whereas you might find some discomfort as you move in the yin style, in restorative, there's zero, we always look for zero discomfort. I do teach a restorative class. I've taught restorative for a long time, and I was actually kind of dumped into that one, and I didn't really want to teach it. I was young. I was fairly young. I don't think I was 30 yet. And I liked a hot power vinyasa class. So when I was asked to kind of carry the torch of a teacher before me and do a restorative practice once a month, it just was a lot until it wasn't. So I did it because I had to. And then I have found this love, and it's a really great thing. So I think what I'll do is do some restorative, and then at the end, if there's some questions, you can ask me there. And again, because of the time crunch that we're in, I'm going to do a little teaching as well as let you experience it. So right now, come into a supported child's pose. And supported child's pose is with props, where think of child's pose, you probably might think, oh, it's already a restorative posture, but depending on what's going on in the hip flexors, and depending on what's going on through the back, you might not find a lot of comfort in child's pose. So the idea here is that you're going to add props. If you have a bolster, great. And if you don't, you can make one out of blankets or towels. These wool blankets are, there's a little more stability to them than like a squishy, fuzzy fur throw blanket, right? So that's why you see this style of blanket in a yoga practice more often than not. Then you're going to just fold it into thirds to create a bolster. So that's an option if you don't have a bolster. And then to make it a little bit bigger, you can add the blocks underneath it. And if you're fortunate to have more blocks, then you could put a block underneath your hips between your ankles. So as you come into child's pose, let your knees come a little further apart than you might typically have in child's pose. And then come on down. And the idea in the restorative practice is to completely let go and let your body drape or release or mold over the props. To go along with what Paul and Sarah and others in the Yin family discovered and looked into as far as that quieter practice, the restorative practice is the opportunity to nurture and in this deep recognition of rest that's needed, necessary, especially for how busy we are. There's a quote from, he's a Trappist monk. He was a Trappist monk named Thomas Merton. And I can't remember, I mean, he's been gone for a while. So I think this was written, I don't even remember. It's been at least 50 years. To allow oneself. So think about, technology now and what we have available to us. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything. To want to help everyone and everything is itself to succumb to the violence of our time. Do we overschedule to the point that we rob ourselves of the experience of being alive in the moment? Are we allocating time that doesn't respect or reflect our inner priorities? How are we arranging our lives? Are we a doing machine? Are we compelled to push and push and push? And what happens is that because the way the body and the limbic system responds to stress doesn't rate it, right? It doesn't say on a scale of 1 to 10, being chased by a tiger, get out of burning building, right? It doesn't scale stress. It responds to stress, no matter the stress of being stuck in traffic, or the bills, or the conflict with work, or getting out of a building that's on fire, or being chased by a tiger. Everything is stress. And so if we're inundated by stress, right? So our body was built so that it could utilize some of these, help me out, the uh, hormones that we have if we've got stress in our life, to get us out of it. And then it would be able to relax back. But unfortunately, we have more and more stresses. They're littler. They're not burning buildings and tigers, but our body doesn't see it that way. And so then there's this influx of, especially the stress hormone cortisol. And cortisol is a root of inflammation, and inflammation is root of disease. And so this causes a lot going on. So when we allow a restorative practice, it signals a deep, deep switch to the parasympathetic and this place of healing. From child's pose, slowly press up, and I recently did a restorative sequence in one of our Sunday sessions. I'm going to try and not do the same things that I've done in the past. So right now, just take, if you've got a bolster, you use bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you'll use you can use a folded blanket. You could put your blanket on top of blocks, right? A little stack on top of blocks. And then if you've got another blanket, or if you've got the bolster, then you're going to use a blanket underneath you. If you don't have a blanket for underneath your hips, it's okay. It just allows that support of the lumbar curve. So if you've got one, I would suggest using it. The bolster or your blanket is going to be at the foot of your mat, and your blanket, if you've got one, is going to be, I'm unfolding it pretty wide, and I'm just going to put a little fold in. So maybe like 2 inches thick, or if you were doing a little roll, it would be 2 inches in diameter, not very big. And it might be less, because if we go back to that Princess and the Pea analogy, the longer we stay, the more it's going to manifest, right? So when we come down, the blanket, if you've got one, is going to go right at the the waistband of your lower back, right where your waistband would be or is, unless you're not wearing pants, I guess. That'd be weird. And that sounded judging, it's not. Anyway, so that's where it's gonna go. And when you practice, when you practice, you want to make sure that you really set yourself up because you're going to be here for a while. If it was a few breaths in and a few breaths out, you might be able to accommodate and deal with it. But when you're here for this long, that's where that whole principle of the analogy comes in. You can even flip your bolster up if you wanted a little higher, and that just allows that sinking into the hips, right? That release and from the thighs into the hip sockets. And just that little bit of a roll is going to allow more of the neutral spine, which is where we want to be in to really get the benefit of the shock absorber value that the joints provide. And then your arms can be wherever you'd like. So Paul Grilly, Yin, uh, Judith Hanson Lassiter, um, fabulous resource for restorative practice. So you'll continue just to let go. I must have loaned my book out because I can't find it, although I have a lot of places it could be. But I want to say that she calls this the ripples or the bubbling brook. That's what I think it's the bubbling brook or babbling brook. And this idea of just allowing a little lift and a little lower. Um, and I remember seeing at the Nature Center in Boise, Idaho, for those of you that aren't in the Boise Valley, there's Morrison Knudsen has a nature center where they go through this, the stages of life of different fish, right? That was a great outdoorsy place to be. And in one area, these little windows that you can see into the, the water, there's little riffles. And it reminds me of the bubbling brook or the babbling brook. I can't remember which it is that Judith Hanson Lassiter calls it, but the the fish go into this area that's got a little bit of a rapids, right? There's the rapids going and the rocks above, and there's a riffles going on, and it's oxygenating the water, and so they're able to get the nutrients they need, and they just kind of swim and stay still at this little area underneath the surface of the rapids. And I think of this babbling brook, these riffles that you're creating, even small ones, as an opportunity for the nutrients. You want to think about the nutrients of your back body. If you want to go back to the PowerPoint presentation about being stiff, and if we get stiff, there's that age, and I'm definitely paraphrasing here because I can't remember it, but being supple and limber, we have a lot more options. And the longer I practice yoga, that's what it means to me is variability. I have more variability in what I do when I practice. And this opportunity here that you're getting to this nutrients and areas of the body, sometimes we lose the connection, we lose that energy in the lower back. Maybe we feel that release through the hips, the legs are elevated a bit. Sometimes that tension on the legs. Maybe it's just the perspective of rest that allows you to be nourished. If we were in a full practice, I might let you stay a little bit longer. because again, the equation for restorative practice is the asana, the alignment of the asana, as always. Then the utilization of props, your relationship to gravity, and the release of gravity, or to gravity, excuse me, time, and, and the magic component of breath, which we don't need a strong ujjayi breath. It's more breath awareness. Sometimes we add a little bit of breath retention, but really it's just allowing a slow, deep belly breath, which is a great way to um, get into the parasympathetic. So from here, gently draw your legs in and mindfully, as we are soothing our nervous system, just move to one side and come on up. Now, if you have, this is where when I teach, I say get all the props for restorative practice. That's not to say that you have to have props. It just makes it a lot more restorative. But if you have the blanket that's rolled, you're going to keep that. If you have a bolster, you're going to keep that. And if you've got blocks, you're going to use those. Okay, so let me show you that, and then we'll do workarounds for if we don't have those props. The rolled blanket now is going to go right across those hip points on the front, which is going to allow there's going to be that tilt, right? That pelvic tilt, and it's going to allow those hip points to move in, create a little more stability as we move into locust, which is a back bend, but it's going to be restorative. Okay, so the roll blanket will go underneath the hips, hip points, and your bolster is going to be at the back of your mat and on an incline. So here's the thing. If you need less back bend, then your incline is going to be less intense. It's going to be low height and mid height for a block, or you can use books as well. And again, you can use pillows. So something to create this little ramp. Now, if you wanted a deeper incline or deeper back bend, then you'd want a taller incline, right? So you'd flip it up to mid height and tall height. That's pretty huge. So unless you really want a deep back bend, I think the low height option is great. But that you know your body, and that opportunity to witness and make any adjustments is available. Okay. This takes a little bit of setup because it's really hard to inchworm your way into this posture. So you want to, when you come down, sorry, I gotta turn this around. So I'm gonna have my fringe towards the bolster, so my belly isn't on the blanket. And the hip points are going on the blanket, that rolled part. And I'm just going to take one leg up. It's gonna be a half locust. And if you had, another blanket, you could have it for your forehead, but I'm just going to make a pillow with my hands for my forehead. And rest my head on my hands. Okay, so as you set up, if you don't have the bolster, grab some pillows, grab some towels. If you don't have a block, you could grab something to create an incline. Even if you had, I have this little basket cushion thing, I could use that. There's all sorts of things. You start to get kind of creative. I see my husband's mat. I could totally pull that out and utilize that. Uh, there's a lot of different options that we can use. As you settle in, remember you want the hip points right on the folded or rolled blanket, which allows the from the mat to the blanket to the hips to move the hips back into the sockets a little bit. Those just that moving back into the body, and then which is what we're looking for when we do belly down, prone back bending. We want to keep those hip points down so that we anchor, and then we have the lift. And so now we get this beautiful extension, back bend with the props. When you're ready, you can transition and do the other leg. When I teach this supported locust posture, I don't typically stay as long as I would in other restorative postures because I'm doing one side and then the other, and then I move to both. So there is a little bit, you know what, you can't take the dancer out of me, I guess, because we've talked about why we love the practice, and I definitely love the flow, and I love the way that the body integrates into that flow from parts to whole. And so there's that part, but also that opportunity to notice the right side when it's up, and the left side when it's up, and then both. It's a really pretty yummy thing. So I'll let you be here for a moment while I chat a little bit more about restorative. Switch sides if you haven't switched sides already, and take the other leg up. Studies have been done in restorative practice. I think the one that's most significant for me is the one where they took two groups of women. I think it was women. I think that was in the same demographic, same age range, and they the two groups had very similar nutritional plans and exercise plans. Uh, Everything was very structured and very similarly to each other. The one difference was that in one of the groups, they implemented a restorative practice and a meditation practice. And I can't remember, it's foggy in my brain, but I think it was like a 6-month program. It might have been a year. And so the first month, it was just once a month. And they did this restorative practice. And then the second month, they did it bi-weekly. And I think that continued for a couple of months. And then they started doing it weekly. I think it was maybe 6 months. Oh, I don't remember. Anyhow, after the course of time has passed, these groups had been measured, right? Their energy levels, their sleeping patterns, their resting heart rate, their blood pressure, body fat, and weight. All of these things. It was in a weight loss group, as I recall. And the group that had the restorative practice, right, not doing more, just really letting go and resting, they lost, it was a significant amount more, whether it's in their resting heart rate or they gained more in their sleeping habits and more restful sleep, and they lost more fat because of the ability to really regulate into the parasympathetic nervous system, which regulates the hormones. And so instead of getting this influx of the stress hormone like cortisol, they got the feel-good hormones like dopamine. If you haven't already, transition and bring both legs up. And if both legs up is too much, then maybe do a little readjusting with the blanket underneath you, or return to doing alternating the Ardha Shalambasana, the half locust. This happens to be one of my favorites, so I'm just going to do it for a moment too and not talk. To come out of this, straddle the bolster with your legs. Press your hands back alongside you. And slowly press up. It's not going to be a full child's pose because you've got your props there, but you can just extend your arms forward and drop your hips back. And then walk the hands in. Walk away from your props. We'll keep the incline, maybe, at this height. It's very similar to that yin deer shape that we're going to work into now. So you don't have to use the props. You could go like we did with the yin deer if you'd like. It's very similar shape to the seated posture Brahmajasana, a twist named after Brahmaja. I'm going to take my blanket and put it underneath my legs just to cushion a little bit more. Something that I've recognized I need a little bit more through my joints as I get older, that it just is a nice, sweet thing when I can offer it. And then with my right hip, my left, but looks like right, my right hip up against the bolster, just take that twist. And framing the bolster with your hands, lengthen first. So length is really important when we twist, like always. Really want to focus on the length so that when we move, that shear that happens as we twist isn't, it's not into joints and bones. It's really about into the connective tissue and the muscle and getting into where we want it rather than shortening and tightening. Okay, so as you get tall, lengthen and turn towards your bolster or your props or to the floor if it's no prop, and then lower yourself down. So your forearms can come down, your head can come down. If you've got the props and you recognize maybe you don't need the incline, you could go a little bit deeper. You can move, props away. Blocks away is a great place to go. However, the idea is that you let go and that you're not trying. That's the whole. If there is any effort in that, it's the effort of letting go and not to try so much to hold. For me, I play with how does it feel to have my palms down today? And then maybe how does it feel to have my palms up? It's just different. It's not, one's not better or correct. It's just how does it feel in the moment? And then the next option, which my husband loves, and I'm not a fan of, once in a while maybe. Things have really got to align for me to like this. But to turn the gaze the other way. Now, for me, because of the way I hold stress in my upper back and in the sides of my neck, when I try to do that, all my defenses, my coils are raised, I guess. So for me, it's more to not go so far. And that's, again, these are the kramas, these are the progressions that we work with. I think there's, the longer we stay in this idea of time, we think that, okay, I've let go, I've surrendered. And then for me, it's always another layer. The longer I stay and really breathe and be, there's layers that I didn't even realize that I was holding, and a deeper sense of letting go, this peeling away of the layers. Take your time and gently press back up. You could do a couple of things. So if you're facing the screen, I recognize sometimes that's hard to turn away from. If you're comfortable with that, you can just flip around. The other thing for me as a teacher, I don't like to always talk to the wall. So I'll just take my bolster to the other side. It's up to you. And then just do that little shift, your legs, that pinwheel deer shape. Add the incline of the blocks if you like. First, get tall. Check in. Notice similarities and differences between your sides. And slowly take the twist, keeping the length of your spine. Take the twist towards your bolster, your props. Frame the props with your hands. Continue to keep the length and observe your breath. Release down. Start with the same side of your face to the floor, to your props, as your knees are facing. Maybe play with, how does it feel to have the palms up or down? Perhaps the block isn't really needed, so you could gently move that away. That that incline allows for a little less intensity through the right side stretch, right? So if you think back to the banana shape or the crescent, the supine crescent that we took, that's a big stretch through the side body. In fact, we've got that crescent shape here. We've just come into a little bit of a twist with it. But you might not need the incline, or you might, depends on what's going on. And then just the softening, letting go. And after being here for a little while, then you could turn your gaze the other way. That feels like it will benefit you. When I teach a restorative sequence, probably because I do like the flow and the dance of the body. It's definitely one of the things I'm drawn to is movement. I still find a flow in a restorative practice, which we've kind of done today. And I always think about planes of movement, right? Whether it's the forward, sagittal plane, or back bending plane, right? Sagittal plane of movement forward, back, or the frontal plane to the sides of the body, or into getting into the twists and that integration of the transverse plane of movement. So that's very similar to the way we teach a vinyasa practice. We want to look and get the bodies moving in all planes of movement. We look at that as far as the sequencing in a more quiet practice. We can do similar. We can look at, the shape of the body and planes of movement. Can we turn it on its side or on the back or belly down? And create some integration. So there's still an opportunity to flow with the body and to create a sequence, even though it's a quieter, slower practice. Gently lift and press away from the floor, move slowly and mindfully. Take your bolster and put it on an incline. This time, the lower the incline, the bigger the back bend. Now we're going to be sunny side up, this supine. So you might choose to prop up a little higher. If you don't have a bolster and you're using the blankets, it's totally doable. It's just that you need a lot. One blanket won't do it. 2, 3 blankets. I say 3 at the minimum. So just work with what you've got. And pillows work, except that they're a little squishier depending on how firm the pillow is. But you can make things work. You just need to recognize that you've got to have the stability here, right? Stability pays the rent. In this case, it's not stability of your bones and your muscles to stabilize the joints and fix the bones, but in this case, it's the props. So stability pays the rent. So just recognize that. If you've got the blankets and you're going to, I usually have at least 3. I kind of stagger them to go onto the blocks so that you've got it supporting your back. Okay. If you have an extra blanket, you can use your blanket. And if you don't have a blanket, you can use a strap. The strap is always, for someone that's never done this before, it's always confusing. So we'll see how you do. Let me show you the blanket option first, and then you can, if you're ready to go in the blanket option, great. If not, then I'll teach you the strap option. But you take your blanket pretty wide and you roll it. It becomes your nest. Now, if I were laying against my bolster, my bottom, I'm going to stay facing you because that's where it kind of gets confusing with the strap. My bottom is on the floor and my back is on the props coming down. If you don't have props and you want to get a little restoration in, do legs up the wall if you've got a wall close by, or if you've got your chair, you can put your legs up the chair like we did in the senior practice. So don't think that if you don't have this, that you can't participate, because it's lovely. Okay, so just take something. And then so if you've got your blanket, you're going to take the blanket, your legs are in the bound angle shape, right? And take the blanket over the tops of your feet, tuck them around your ankles, so you've got support, and then back to your hips. So that's why you want the long roll. If it's not unfolded, it's not going to be long enough, and then your princess in the pea body is not going to be happy. So just, coalesce, coalesce the princess. So the blanket sprayed up against your hips and it creates a little nest. That's option one. Option two, you take your belt, still have the Baddha Konasana legs. Imagine that my bolster is behind me. I've already set up so that I know that my bum's right up against the bolster. And then the strap goes under your feet, your Baddha feet, your bound feet. And, excuse me, the buckle edge is coming from behind you to your feet. Then you take the strap under your feet and you're gonna make a big loop. So the belt is behind your back, that waistband. Oh, I did it wrong. See, maybe it's confusing because the teacher is confused. Probably it. Okay, never mind. The belt is coming up towards your hip. You think I've never done this before. I've done it for I don't even know how many years. Anyway, the reason for the belt thing is because you want the energy to be lifted rather than to pull down. You want the energy pulling up towards your spine. Think about that proximal energy rather than distal. As far as the anatomical terms go, you want to pull the energy towards you rather than away from you. So that's where that comes from. I just always orient wrong. Okay, so you pull up. And then the other thing, if you're using the belt, you don't want the buckle itself resting on your leg because it's that whole analogy again that sometimes that little, if it's just annoying you, then your mind, your attention is going to go there and your fidgeting happens rather than allowing yourself to drop in. Okay, so whether you've got your bolster and your blankets or bolster and strap, or you're putting your legs up the wall or your chair, come on down. And the strap and the blanket allow the legs to move into the hip opening of Baddha Konasana. The bolster underneath you, your back, allows the extension of your spine, allows that opening through the heart center into the back bend, the heart openers of yoga. And because we're utilizing the props, this I always think of a nest experience, this little release, the body can completely let go and feel the support of the props, the stability of the props. You could be with a natural breath. If you would like, you could practice little breath retention, the Dirga Pranayama of moving in, third, pause, inhaling a little more, third of the way more in, pause, inhale, expanding into the belly, pause, and then exhale completely. If you're deepening your awareness with a pranayama practice, do one more cycle and then return to deep belly breath and surrender. Sometimes I'll utilize this posture, reclined bound ankle, supported reclined bound ankle pose as Shavasana. Sometimes I'll allow I'll suggest, well, not allow, students to transfer from here to Shavasana if they prefer. But here, as you let go of some of those places that we tend to get defensive in the hips and the thighs, the lower back, as we allow that support of the back, and as you allow that opening because of the support of the back body, the opening through your heart center. Take in the energies here, the energies of letting go of being defensive, feeling completely supported, nurtured, cradled, in a place to curate and open your heart. Why wait? Why wait for your awakening? The moment your eyes are open, seize the day. Would you hold back? Would you hold back when the beloved beckons? Would you deliver your litany of sins like a child's collection of seashells, prized and labeled? No, no, I can't. I can't cross the threshold. You say, eyes downcast. I'm not worthy. I'm afraid. And my motives aren't pure. I'm not perfect. And surely I haven't practiced nearly enough. My meditation isn't deep and my prayers are somehow insincere. I still chew my fingernails and the refrigerator isn't clean. Do you value your reasons for staying small more than the light shining through the open door? Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Now is the only time you have to be whole. Now is the sole moment that exists to live in the light of your true self. Perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. Perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. Please, oh please, don't continue to believe in your disbelief. This is the day. This is the day of your awakening. Perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. Dana folds. Move mindfully. I chose that poem because I think sometimes we get daunted about how much there is to know, how much you don't know. And sometimes those fears or defenses pull us back. Take your time, and as you move into the awareness of your breath, you might bring in some movement into the body. It's a little tricky if you've got the strap around your legs to come out. The best way is to use the strength of the forearms and the stability of your core and press up. If you are got the blanket around you, you could roll to your side, or you could do the same thing. You just gently with the forearms press up. So it's totally up to you. And take a moment to release the binds into a comfortable seat. And as you sit tall, just take a moment again to check in with the majesty of a mountain. stability, the strength, the roots, but also the lift, expansion. As you draw your hands to your heart, just take a moment in this recognition that you're just gathering these tools, this opportunity to be the student, always be the student. And that these tools are going to aid you. And the what you learn as far as the senior yoga also benefits those recovering from a head injury or learning some skill after a major surgery, or even to some extent an expectant mama. It changes a little bit with them, but still some changes there. And also the quieter practices, recognizing how to draw them in. So with your hands at your heart, just bow inward. Take a moment to bow in. To acknowledge the lasting peace that starts inside. And to bow to your teachers, every teacher that heralds becoming light, shows you the shadows, that teaches patience, hope, the cyclical nature of life. Bow in, this honoring of the lineage, connection to the ancients, to those who passed on guidance. Those, including yourself, who will pass it on in this ripple effect as it moves out. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. I know we are a little past our time, 5 minutes. If you have any questions or comments, I'm here. I'm available. If you need to go, I totally understand. Um, we can talk more in the coming weeks about what we've done and share more. But thank you for your time today. But I'm here if you need me for a few minutes.
Thank you, Kimberly, so much.
You're welcome.
Have a
Thanks,
great rest
Kim.
of your weekend.
You're welcome. Thank you. You too.
Kimberly, thank you for the reclined locust. I have never done that before. That was really interesting.
Did you like it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah, I enjoyed the feeling in my body, and it had, like I said, it was new to me. So it was an interesting exploration and very enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. I'm not sure who's saying sorry, I'm looking at chats, and I'm glad it was enjoyable. How long have you been doing this? I don't know who's saying that, but I have been doing this for I've been teaching for 20 years, teaching yoga for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Hi, Alicia. Nice to see you.
Hi, guys. Very relaxed. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yeah, me too. Feels nice, right?
Yeah,
You're
for
so
the last
welcome.
one, I
Thank
also use
you.
the
Have a
iPad at the end.
Yes, I was going to grab my eye pillow and then I decided not to. I was going to read anyway, so I didn't grab it. But the eye pillow is such a beautiful way to really move inward. Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
I won't
Yeah.
hold you up. I'll see you on Sunday.
Anyway,
Enjoy the rest of your day.
I will. I will. You do the same. Thank you. Hmm. Mm.